when I first started playing poker with this group, I remember I was initially kind of frustrated because we were playing like what 3 or 4 hands in an hour, which is incredibly slow for a game of poker. And that's not because we were diligently betting and trying to read each other. It was just because we were talking on the side on everything. So as long as I've actually known Seth, um, everything has been about connection and deeper community and understanding what that's like. And Compact Coffee and what Seth is building is no exception to that. Um, so with that, Seth, kind of want to kick it off with you. Uh, let's start with like how your story started with coffee. Like how what did that look like? Where how did it start?
Hello, welcome. Thanks for coming. Um, man. Well, my first experience with coffee was not a good one. And that came from my grandfather. It smelled coffee, so I tried as a kid. Never liked it, so trying it, and it turns out to be the red can. Um, and so I didn't have coffee for a very long time until about 2012. So, in 2012, I lived in Oregon for just a brief time, and went to a coffee shop called Case Coffee Roasters. And they just kind of won a reward for their Kenyan coffee that they had, and it was very berry forward and very sweet. And one of the things that really turned me on to this coffee was the owner would served it to me, and he said, "Hey, if you don't like it, it's on me. But if not, then come back and pay for it later. Enjoy your coffee." So from that moment on, my life was changed with coffee, and I wanted to learn everything about it. So that's kind of like where it started back in 2012.
And then from there, I know you went into all kinds of different phases. You've started up a couple shops. I think you started up a shop in Durango. You want to talk about that a bit with Taste?
Yeah, fast forward a few years, I ended up getting a phone call from a friend of mine. He wasn't a friend at the time, but he called and he's like, "Hey, a friend of mine told me you're really into coffee." So he was like, "Would you like to open up a coffee shop with me?" And that coffee shop ended up being called Taste Coffee. It was in Durango. There was like a little food truck kind of center called 11th Street Station. I don't know if you guys have been there, but it's pretty fun. And we got basically a really nice machine and really good coffee beans and little pour over system because I one of the deals that I made with him is like I don't want to turn it into a Starbucks. Just being honest with him, and I was like, I really have learned a lot about coffee, and I want to show people what coffee can taste like. So yeah, that's what that Taste Coffee started as.
And then from there, like where was Compact born in relation to that story? Because I know it really started out of the van, right?
No, actually,
Okay.
it started as a little cart. A little a buddy of mine, actually, he was my very first customer at Taste Coffee, and he came in kind of with a ripped up Patagonia jacket, long beard, long hair. He'd laugh at this, but he actually looked homeless, and I was like, okay, this is going to be a good start to a coffee shop. So, um, but he ended up being my best friend, bit like mentor around like coffee business, and his name is Jesse. And if you guys ever get the chance to meet Jesse, it's a special day. He'll once in a while come over here, and we'll serve free coffees to everybody. So, but so that turned into him inviting me over to his house. He had his own espresso machine. He loved what I did at Taste Coffee, and he was like, "If you want to learn more, I'd love to teach you. I'd love to get you hands on to doing things." And because yeah, that turned into you should make a cart. You should start doing events. And I had a big passion for like zero waste, so I didn't want to do any paper cups or anything like that. So I saw that as a problem in the coffee industry at the time, and so I was like, I'm going to do a coffee cart, but events, but not bring paper cups. And so I started bringing ceramic to every event that I did, and I started doing coffee in a really nice way, nice presentation, and that kind of stuff. So, um, but it started off as a little coffee cart, and then that also uh, um, morphed into a coffee van. So I rigged out a van, put my espresso machine in there so I can drive my van around and just park it and kind of set up a nice little spot. And yeah, so people walked up to the back of my van, bought a coffee, went to the side, picked it up, and still with ceramic. So still never did paper cups at that point. Um, and then um, that was a kind of a fun chapter. We got to do a couple of different things. Big weddings like Cresty Butte Telluride, all that kind of stuff. Really big cool events, venues and stuff. And I got a phone call from a movie set as well. That was probably my favorite thing I've done. It turned into doing coffee for the whole movie set of Jumanji. So they were filming a film set out there and started doing coffee in the middle of the desert. So it was pretty fun. Um, but yeah, then COVID hit, and so that turned into what Call My Coffee kind of is today. I started doing more education, more deliveries, and stuff like that. And when I did weddings and stuff, I got really good coffees, and so I got new coffees every wedding. But friends started to ask me, "Hey, can you order me a bag of that coffee because it's really good?" And I was like, "Okay, sure." So I just ordered an extra pound of coffee, and then I was like, another friend asked me the same thing, so I was like, "Well, shoot, I'll just start selling like coffee in pounds." And so that turned into the coffee refill program that I still run today. Um, then that turned into also more education, so private classes. Instead of doing big events with a lot of people, I shifted with COVID and started teaching people one on ones. So, like latte art, how to brew espressos, and so on. So,
I think it's really cool to just see the thread of the connection that it's always been there. Like even when you guys had the smaller van and cart setup, it was always about like going to people where they were with real connection, and experiencing that. And I think what you've done with Compact HQ, which is the shop down here, it's kind of like, has everybody been there? Have you, if you have not been there, you want to single yourself out? No? Okay, cool. So, like, you know, what you've done with Compact HQ, it's kind of like a living room speakeasy. Like you don't even have menus in there. And I think that like we've talked about that before, it throws people off when they come in. They don't really know what to expect. So
yeah.
you touched a bit earlier on like not wanting to be Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see like this stereotype of American coffee shop typically,
Mm.
and what are you trying to do different with that with
Yeah.
HQ?
Very intentional with coffee or compact HQ down there. And just be transparent. Like I wasn't even really looking for a brick and mortar at the time. And I still, like very shocked that I'm actually doing a brick and mortar right now. Um, but here I am, and I really wanted to make a space for people to meet someone, to like actually slow down and enjoy the cup of coffee, but also, hey, we're gonna talk with some community, talk with each other, connect on a day to day basis. Um, I lost my train of thought.
Well, I mean, I've seen when some people come in and they're like, they just kind of look dazed, like they're looking for a menu, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Hey, what
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
do I do?"
I'll talk about that. The menu aspect is a definitely different take. I haven't seen this happening across the travels. Um, and I guess skipping over a couple things, but I traveled around the U.S. Quite a bit, touring the different roasters and coffee roasters and stuff like that. And one of the things I didn't see is like everyone gets disconnected from the barista or the register to the menu. So that when someone looks at a menu, they just get disconnected instantly. So that connection with your customer is gone, and then they come back to you. Um, I'm very specific on not doing that, so I can keep that contact with you. So I can keep connecting and talk to you about, hey, what kind of coffee do you like? Let's talk about it. Let's not just have it like a fast turn and burn kind of coffee. So.
And I know with your travels too, you spent some time in New Zealand,
Mhm.
and that was kind of part of the culture down there too.
Yep.
That's kind of where
Yep.
you got the idea from.
Yeah, Australia, New Zealand. If you ever get the chance to go to Melbourne, Australia, it's the best coffee in the world. They set the trends for the specialty coffee industries across the world, and there's different waves in coffee. And so if you guys are familiar with first, second, third wave, even fourth wave. If you want to talk about that, we can. But um, everywhere I went in Melbourne, Australia, was all third wave specialty coffee. You couldn't find a bad cup of coffee, even in a truck stop along the highway. So it was really cool. Flying into New Zealand, the airport, the coffee shop right there was just pouring like really good flat whites, just right there. I was like, this is where I need to be. So, right off the airplane. So, but yeah, that's where I was gotten very big inspired by my shop as well, like very Aussie inspired coffees. So short Americanos, or what's called long blacks, flat whites, cortados, and all steamed in a very nice, silky smooth way. So that's. Oh yeah, yeah. So the first wave of coffee, basically anyone with a coffee pot. So anyone at home, anybody with just like a coffee brewer. Second wave is basically someone with an espresso machine, taking the next step further, trying out different espresso beans and so on. And they usually have like some syrups and everything, and making really fun drinks, and it's a fun step in coffee because people are starting to take that next step. Third wave coffee, now, this is a bigger connection with the roaster, and then the roaster, we have a really good connection with the farmer as well. So we can trace where your coffee's coming from, and we can actually really isolate different like farms and soil patterns and rain patterns that affect each crop that year. So really fun way to taste coffee is because there's different single origins. You see a lot of different blends on bags, or like espresso blend or something like that. Usually that's like three or different origins mixed together in a bag of coffee. So I specialize in single origin coffees, so that way we can actually taste that coffee from Colombia or Ethiopia or wherever it may be. And so that's third wave. Third wave is considered specialty coffee as well. So
And let's touch on the fourth wave too. What's that?
yeah, fourth wave is kind of just like a discussion right now. It's kind of just people joke about fourth wave right now, but I do believe that there is something that's more than third wave. Third wave, there's a lot of coffee shops around the country that's third wave coffee, but there's not a lot of places that's teaching coffee or that's educating people with coffee. These specialty coffee shops still have to make a lot of coffee and to make a profit and to do a coffee shop well, and so. I think the fourth wave is now we're taking a step back, we're slowing things down, we're actually talking about the coffees amongst each other. So
Very interesting. Um, so I know after Ryan Short's fireside chat that we kind of talked a bit about guide culture in
yeah.
Salida. I think that's really cool.
Mhm.
And I've definitely looked at you and like my own personal journey with coffee as my personal guide and guru to in proving that. I'm sure my wife Hannah in the back might comment too on the quality of the coffee we've had around our house lately. So thank you for that. Um, Along those lines, though, I do want to touch on coffee. We passed out the cascara at the beginning. Let's talk a little bit about the different things, and maybe starting with the cascara.
Yeah, yeah. Who knows that the coffee bean is not actually a bean? Yeah. So the coffee bean is actually a seed from a cherry, and so that therefore the cherry tree. They consider it a coffee tree, but it is a cherry. So the cascara tea that you guys are drinking right now, or you had tasted, is actually the cherry pulp from the coffee tree. So it's a really fun thing that I've found over the travels and years of going to coffee shops. It's very rare to find. But it's really fun. It's really good, and it's a direct connection to the coffee. So it's about 25% of the caffeine is coffee, so it's really nice to have. And it's very juicy, very kind of cherry hibiscus forward with the flavor. So it's really nice to have. There are a lot of shops that I saw in Australia made like seltzer waters with it and all kinds of fun, like really cool stuff. So it is very experimental, and it's usually just a byproduct with farms. They just compost it usually. So yeah, that's Cascora. Now, I want to touch on the processing because we're talking about cherries. Um, there's three main processes with coffee. There's natural, there's a washed, and then there's a honey processed. Because I want to touch on that because it's part of the cherry process. So I washed coffee is with the cherry pulp and the mucus all washed off of the seed, and so it's a very clean coffee. Usually, it's more chocolatey, more caramely forward coffees. There can be some sweetness and berry forwards with that as well. On a lot of higher end coffees and well roasted. The other one is a natural coffee. Now, a lot of people are blown away when they taste their first natural, because it doesn't really have that chocolatey taste, or if it does, it's sweet. It's a really sweet chocolate. And then people start to get berries and strawberries and blueberries and all kinds of fun tasting notes out of natural coffees. That's what turned me on to a coffee. Is like that's what coffee is supposed to taste like. It's like supposed to be sweet. It's supposed to be naturally like just smooth and not like burnt and tar.
And you're talking about like naturally sweet. It's not like sugars are added into
Yeah,
the
so
process.
sorry. The natural is with the cherry pulp left on the seed, and then it dries off from that. So there's a fermentation process, but there's a lot of different fermentation processes that are third wave and crazier. Like there's even starting to be like a co-ferment, which that's a whole nother ball game with coffee. So um, but yeah, then the honey is an interesting one because it's kind of in the middle of the washed and the natural. So the natural is with the cherry pulp, and then the washed is with everything washed off. The honey process is actually with the mucus left on the seed, and so the mucus soaks in, and then they fermentate it with the mucus on the seed. So that's the three main ones: is natural, honey, and washed.